So if you please take the third slide, then this was, yes, that's it. In the Middle Ages, the technology of the water mills became better and better. And here the monks and monasteries had a great influence and brought mill writers as well as other workmen building churches and monasteries. The eldest mill in Denmark are Mølle in Odense and Mølle in Næstved from 1135. These mills were corn mills. And in the Middle Ages, the castles and manors surrounded by moats demanded water mills to dam up the water. Both at mills and at the manors, there are great archaeological interests owing to the long period that the mills have been in function. The middle-aged King Valdemar, who himself owned many mills, said that no stream should run unused to the sea. The next slide, please. The period from 1700 to 1900 was a glorious period of the water mills. We know about 3,000 water mills in Denmark, but not at the same time. Perhaps 2,000 mills at the same time. A lot of mills were owned by the noble estate, and therefore the millers often were copyholders, and mills were placed nearby the manors. The miller also had some land near his mill, but not as much as a farm. But often the miller got richer than the farmers around him. The miller also needed a privilege to run the mill. That means that the state gave the miller his privilege. We had at that time absolute monarchy in Denmark at that time. The making of new mills was regulated by the state until 1862, and most of the time millers became freeholders. But this was a long process in Denmark that did not end up until 1900. The technology of the mills were developed very much in this period. In old maps, we can see that ponds and dams became bigger and more sophisticated. The breeze-shot mills and the overshot wheels were very efficient. But the water mills could not be used in frost, and many of them could not in draughty weather. Most Danish water mills are connected to streams, which they often even gave a name after the mill. But also mills getting water from springs are well known in Denmark. The picture you can see here is from a place called Rødkilde here in the island of Fyn, and it has takes its water from a spring. The pound were used for grazing in the summer, and some mills had both a windmill and a water mill. And at these mills, you could often use the pond for grazing in the summer. In the last years of this period, up to 1900, turbines were in many places installed in the old mills, so that they have got no old wheel any longer, but a modern turbine. Yes, please, the next one. Yes. I have also been told that I should say a little about Paul Lacour, who lived from 1846 until 1908. And he graduated in mathematics and physics at the University of Copenhagen. And in 1872, he was one of the founders of the Danish Meteorological Institute, and he was actually one of the first meteorologists in Denmark. He studied many interesting things, and one of his favorite studies was of aerodynamics, and he had a lot of costs there. The state would not pay for it, so he had his own private economy to do that. And perhaps it was therefore that his wife in 1878 encouraged him to become a teacher at the folk high school at Askov in Jutland. She was a friend of Grundtvig, the philosopher and theology here in Denmark, Grundtvig, and the folk high school, so to speak, was his idea. But what was special in Askov was that they also had a technological department there, and there he could continue his studies with windmills and aerodynamics. And actually, he optimized the mill arms, and he also was the first to produce electricity from a mill. The first person in the world who did that. Perhaps that's why we are rather good here in Denmark for electric mills. And he also used the electric power at the folk high school. They had lamps and so on in the school using the electricity from this mill. The next slide, please. Yes, and here we can see the mill, the old mill, and it was a very simple mill. Later on, he made a more sophisticated mill. And here we can see the building where his last mill was placed on the top of it. But unfortunately, it's not there anymore. But actually, there's a museum for Paul Lacour in that building. And it's in the western part of Jutland, near to a town called Varde. Next, please. At the time of 1900, many mills were taken out of use, both water mills and windmills. A short renaissance during World War II, because it was very expensive and very difficult to get electricity. But then we could, they had a short period where we could use the water mills producing electricity in some places, and also grinding corn in the mills, but it was a short period. And the next period was what we can call the Big Fall. 1953, the Danish National Museum founded to protect both wind and water mills in Denmark, and they actually bought mills. In 1959, 20 wind and water mills were protected by law in Denmark, and the National Museum owned a great part of them. But in 1960, the National Museum got a new leader, and he drove over all the mills to the Danish Møllerforening Society. After that, they also go over some of the mills to private owners or guilds. In 1962, the National Museum established a department for mills, and the leader was Anders Jespersen, and the department was closed in 1986. The next, please. Anders Jespersen, who we can see here at the picture on the left wing of the picture. Unfortunately, that was the only picture I could get of him. But of course, he's out here working at some water mill. He was born in 1920 in Odense, and his father was a manager at Odense Sæk Company. And he had an interest in mills already as a boy. As an adult, he educated as an engineer, and he went to Scotland and England in order to study mills over there. And he married a Scotch woman, and he was an engineer with special knowledge about molinology. and he made up his own system. If anyone have ever seen some of his systems, it's a very special system that he made. And he also got information about mills from Africa in the south and until the northern part of Norway in the top. And he was, as I have told before, the leader of the national, the molecular department in the Danish National Museum. He also was owner of Lillemølle in Fyn, and his archives are now in the National Museum.
Heeft iets met Tims heeft hij gedaan.
Yeah. The next one, please. Yes. The situation today is that we have got 57 listed water mills in Denmark, and the administration is the Ministry of Culture, but we can say that only 10 mills are in function, and they are, so to say, a lot of them are, also 47 or 40 are, so to speak, dead buildings with no living culture. And we can ask ourselves, are the best mills protected and listed in Denmark? I would say no. The mills selected are often on the list because of their architectonic value, not of their use. We therefore have mills in function that are not listed, and listed mills that are empty shells without a function. This is not, that may be because it's architects who are making the lists and no historians or cultural anthropologists. The listed building in Denmark gets some money from the state, but not all, about 1/3. So if you are to restore a mill for, let's say, 900,000 kroners, you get about 250 kroners. The rest is up to the owners or support by foundations. The overriding problem today is the European Directive for Water Streams. In Denmark, we have over-implemented every little stream, even some in the ground. The objective is that all water mills in streams must be removed so that there can be a free passage for trout fish. The Ministry of Environment in Denmark is a very powerful ministry, and we are only a few persons taking care of the mills in this situation. Also, the lack of volunteers and well-educated joiners are a great threat to the few existing and well-preserved water mills in Denmark. That was it.
Thank you, Ellen. And thank you, Jippe, for rescuing this presentation. Maybe is there time for 1 or 2 questions? If somebody has a question, please raise your hand. Let's see if I see somebody. I do not see somebody, is that correct? No. Oh yeah, I see Hans. Yeah, please unmute, Hans.
Hello. My question is, there are no, rights for having water. My mill in Germany have the rights to use water since 1253. Mm-hmm. Are there no rights in Denmark to make use the water from the streams?
Yes, and the mill owners, of course, had this right. But as it is said today, the new rules are overruling the Danish law. That's what we get to know.
Ashamed, yes.
Unfortunately.
And I heard that the Society for Surroundings had for the nature, also the fish in the streams. There are no salvations for making around the mill that the fish can pass the mill on without that they are going to death.
That's why the dams are removed, so that the fish can go free there. That's what they want. And in Denmark, we also, there are not so many natural toadfishes in the streams. So therefore, they are, so to speak, brought up in some places, and then they perhaps in one stream, they set out about many thousands of them. And that's, I think it's not a natural way to do that. And then they have also spoiled the mills, so to speak. And a lot of mills in Denmark are simply taken out of use and spoiled because of this demand from the European society.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen, for your answers. I see that Lisa also has some questions, but if there's a quick one, otherwise we go on with Suzanne, which can answer also the questions in the chat. But Lisa, is the quick question?
Yes, you mentioned 1959 that 20 of the mills in Denmark were protected. Is that the same for today? Did they remain protected all those years? Thank you.
Yes, they have remained protected. The buildings have remained protected, but not the use of the mill. When you protect a mill in Denmark, it's only the buildings, not the function of the mill. You cannot list or protect the function of anything in Denmark, or of a farm or a manor house or so on. It's only the building that you protect.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, clear. Thank you, Ellen Waring, for your presentation. Of course, the PowerPoints will be on the website later on. And now I would want to invite Suzanne Jervlund for her presentation about the Dansk Møllerforening. I don't know if I say that correctly. And maybe, Suzanne, you can also give answer to the questions in the chat if you have seen them. How many mills are there in Denmark? What do you need for the protection, etc.? Maybe you can also go into those questions. And
maybe I can. I think I will ask. I can't really find the chat, but I'll find it. Oh, I see it here. Yes, I see it. Do you want me to ask questions in the chat at the moment now, or I see them here. I can start with some of the questions here.
Go into the start with your presentation and then do the questions on the way.
I'll do that. Yes.
Good. Yeah, well, of course it is. Yeah, no problem at all.
Continue. Yes. My name.
Other people, please mute their microphone. Yeah, thank you.
Funny. My name is Susanne Jervlund, and it's very difficult to pronounce the Jervlund and also Møllerforening. It's almost a test for Danish, so maybe we just have to say mill organization. I think we'll have next slide, please. Okay, here's a picture of the mills that I can look on every day, and I show this picture. I take thousands of pictures of the mills. I suppose you also do of your mills. I'm born at a place where we have a wind and a water mill, and it's one of only 4 places in Denmark with that wonderful situation. It's 2 mills who are in authentic state, and they are on their authentic place as well. I've been interested in mills for all my life, and I think still think it's interesting and very inspiring. I happen to be chairman of the Danish Millers Organization, Dansk Møllerforening, and I'm also involved in our publication, Møllen, that we will talk about later on in another presentation. Lisa will tell about that. And then I've been involved in multiple mill projects. For instance, I worked on a Danish mill dictionary that is to be found on the internet. it gave me access to learn a lot about mills by doing that, which is very interesting. My background as education is that I'm educated as agronomist, so it's something about agriculture, and you could say the mills also is something about agriculture. I work in a municipality, so it's so I can go home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I'm free. Next slide, please. When you look at the Danish Millers Association, it was founded in 1884, and it was founded as an industrial association for the mill owners. And I think it was a response to the creation of unions for mill workers. And it was also founded for the business to take care of the small millers' business interest regarding the big industrial mills in the big cities. It was a competition for the small millers in the countryside. But even if they fought for that, as Ellen explained, the small millers had a greater period during the Second World War, but after that the business declined. And when we look at the organization, the members, the number of members declined, because in the laws for the association, it was you had to be owner of a mill or you had to be related to a mill. So therefore, the number of members declined. So there in the 1980s, there was only about 200 members of the association. And then they looked in each other's eyes and realized that they had to change that purpose. So it was changed to an association that worked for the preservation of mills. And we must also think that at that time, we also had the Danish Monological Society, who was also working with preserving mills. So I think that the Danish Millers Association, they thought that they just had to be a social society for the old millers and not really taking care of the heritage. But that has changed. So that's a way of the purpose today. So we work with networking and looking at mills as a heritage and look at the craft of millers. And all the work in the association is done voluntarily, and we have only 350 members. Next slide, please. And when you look at the association, we can say that we only have very few mills. As Ellen told, there was about 60 listed water mills, and we have about 60 listed windmills as well. And 25% of them are used for other purposes, as an office or a living house for someone. 50% of the mills may be in a state where there are mills actually. So we have few mills, we have few millers members, and we also have we don't have as much knowledge as we can see larger countries like Netherlands or Germany have, England, for instance. But we think that we need to work for that knowledge about mills, and we also need to promote the public awareness about mills. But sometimes we have to say we can't do anything anyway, and we're so few, or we can say every step we do is a progress. And I think we choose the latter one, otherwise, even if it's difficult sometimes. But that's the mindset we have. Every step is a progress.
Jamen det er, men jeg er medlem af en fagforening, så jeg skal ikke, og jeg er ikke interesseret i at skifte.
The purpose clause of the Danish Millers Association is that we had to participate in the public debate, and it's for strengthen the dissemination of knowledge about mills. And that's a thing we try to do in different ways. And one part is the members magazine Møllen, as we'll tell about later, but we also do other kinds of activities, like different projects that we are part of. We can do it together with other ones, or we can do them ourselves, as we'll tell about later. Next slide, please. If you look at the association's economy, and that's when it comes to everything, it's the basis for what we can do. So we have a turnover of about 40,000 euro. We don't talk about kroner, we talk about euro. And if you look at the cost, we use about half of the economy is used for the magazine Møllen, and the rest is shared between the Danish Millers Day, Dansk Møllerforening, and then other projects as running the organization. But as everybody is working voluntarily, the cost for the association is for meetings and paper and things. So we are a cheap organization to run. We often have the discussion about the magazine. It's expensive and it's old-fashioned, but that's we think it's matching good for the purpose that we have this magazine. It's lucky for us that we are able to fund a lot of projects, and it seems to us to be we have some very clever fundraisers in our organization. So that's a big luck. Next slide, please. The association is run. We have a board with 7 members, and then we have 2 alternates, and they are also participating in the meetings. In the board, we have 3 meetings a year, and then plus we have the annual meeting where we invite all the members to the annual meeting, and then we have a tour for the members where we visit mills and mill owners and volunteers in a part of Denmark. Beside the board, we have an editorial group who work with the magazine Møllen, and we have a website and we have a Facebook site. And we can say about Møllen website and Facebook that it's not something that it takes time, and it takes power. It takes to have that to run. Next slide, please. When we look at activities for members, we try to arrange meetings and excursions where we visit mills, and the main excursion is connected to the annual meeting. Then we arrange network meetings for local millers, as Søren Hansen will tell about later. We also work on training activities, where we both have to look at. There are many aspects of working as volunteer in a mill. It can be all the technical things, but it's also about how to handle a local organization, or how to handle visitors to the mill, and there are a lot of different aspects that people need to know about. It's often so that the volunteers of the mill, maybe they are retired, so they don't have a lot of years to learn. So we have to make it easy for them to enter historic mills. So it's a good experience for them. Then we have Dansk Møllerforening, the National Danish Millers Day, where about 100 mills participate every year. And it's also one of the traditions that we have that. Other project we worked on is a film project, and Via Molina, I will shortly mention that. It is the European project about making a cultural route for historic mills, and it's a very big project, and we hope it will be able to keep this alive, and we hope to make progress with that later on. Yeah. Next slide, please. When we look at the publications we do to create this attention about the mills, we have the magazine, and then occasionally make some special publications. And beside, we have this coloring book. It was a local artist who was making a coloring book for his children, and then it suddenly escalated for him. So he was making all kind of painting books, coloring books, and he came. I talked to him, and then we made this coloring book about mills. And related to the 25th anniversary of Dansk Møllerforening, we made a project together with Disney about a Donald Duck magazine. It's so that the Disney they publish a magazine every week, but they think it's better that the children read more than 100 pages than instead of 50 pages. So it was an interesting thing for us to make that. Next slide, please. One of the bigger projects we have been involved in is making an educational project for the primary school and high school, and also films and educational films, where we will see one of these films later on. All the films can be seen at the website Dansk Møller that is written on this slide. It was a very, very big project with a budget of about 500,000 euro. And of course, it was the film producer who was making the project, but we were on the side of the project all the time, and also part of the funding. And it was interesting for us to be part of, because we were often told that we were mill blind when they were looking for exciting stories and drama and things. And what we thought was interesting was not always what the film people thought was interesting. So in that way, we had an interesting meeting there. But the result can be seen at the danskmøller.dk. Next slide, please. Other projects, some of the projects PR about mills are we involved in, and some are we not. We was not involved in when the Tour de France was starting in Denmark. There was made a presentation film where 3 mills was in, and also in the posters for the cities. Here we have Sønderborg, where they use Dybbølmølle. But the other project was it's a heritage competition for the most beautiful. This year it was a watermill. So we was part of this project where 17 different watermills were selected, and then there was a competition of which mill was the most beautiful. And of course, we can say the beautiful was chosen, but it was focused on watermills and the challenges that exist for watermill owners. Next slide, please. Am I keeping the time, or how is it? When we look at the political activity, we have focus on the weight of water frame directive for watermills, as Ellen was telling about before. And it's you could say that we use a lot of energy on watermills, but it's because the threats for the watermills are acute can we say. So it needs a political attention. And for that, we was having a conference in the Danish Parliament last year, where we was publishing a book, and it's also available on the internet. Of course, it's in Danish. But a part of this activity is that we have a close contact with some politicians, and they ask questions for the Minister of Cultural Heritage and also for the Minister of Environment about problems that are related to watermills. We have next slide, please. In this work, we have spotted 10 main challenges for watermills or historic mills. And first is the cultural heritage management, where we can see that it's the focus is the architecture and not the function of the mill. And there's a real lack of recognition that mills are a technological heritage. And then there's a gap between the state, the Slots and Kulturstyrelsen, because they administrate in the listed buildings, and the buildings worthy of preservation is administrated locally by the municipalities. And there's not the really national look overview. So it's a kind of a coincidence which buildings are preserved. We also need a registration of mills. The last registration was shallow and deficient, and it was made in 1993. And after that time, we don't have it. We need that. Well, how? There's also lack of knowledge. Next slide, please. There's also lack of knowledge about historic mills, and we have very few craftsmen working with historic mills. So we need to have more focus on the knowledge about mills. The Water Frame Directive is a threat. For instance, can we say that 90% of the water courses in Denmark are classified as for having the highest ecological level? And when we compare to, if we look at the southern Jylland, we have this situation on the north side of the border, and on the south side of the border in Germany, it's the opposite situation. So that gives a picture of the implementation level of this. I don't know if I want to say so much about the rest, but I think it's the next slide, and we just say there's a lot of challenges for water mills, and the legislation for water, when we ask if there's no right for the water miller to have water, then the Danish water legislation was changed in the 1980s, and it really dismissed all the rights, the old rights for the water millers. So it's now that the municipality have the right to say that if you use water for a water mill, it's the same as using water for irrigating a field or using for pond farming. So you have to apply for a permission to use the water by a municipality. So it makes it very complicated. So we see some very strange cases where a beautiful mill, they're only allowed to use the mill for 2 hours every Sunday, 10 times a year, and it's ridiculous. So that's a very difficult situation, really. I think I'll finish off with this last slide.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah.
We are a little bit over time, but
Yeah,
I think we should look. I think we should look if there's a question.
Yes.
Maybe you can stop.
I have a remark, Eric, from the Netherlands, Guild of the Millers.
Yes, I listen.
I saw in the chat that there were some questions about training material or training millers.
Yes.
The Netherlands is now presently busy of translating our handbooks for the water millers and the windmillers.
Yeah.
And the training material of the Netherlands will be available, this summer. So
Okay.
hopefully that will be helpful, not only for the Danish millers, but for all other millers abroad who really wants to know the theory of operating a mill, and it will be helpful to get more volunteers to be a miller, and especially for the Danish.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice.
Yeah.
I remember I bought the material from the Dutch Millers Organization in I think 2007-8. But then I realized that I had to read Dutch and I did.
Yeah.
I do read Dutch, but it's a big task.
But it has been improved immensely now,
Yeah.
and it will be available in English.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Eric. That's very useful, I think. Because of the time, I suggest we go out in the breakout rooms. In the breakout rooms, you will find a moderator. The moderators are Ellen Waring, Suzanne Jervloen, Per Gliese, Sharon Hansen, Hannah Pennock, or Eric Kopp. So there will be 6 breakout rooms, if we manage it technically. It will take us some time to organize the breakout room, so please don't be worried if it takes a bit time, and you have to click on yes if you want to join the breakout room. The topic of the debate will be how to have an active mill organization for the benefit of mill owners and the volunteers, and how to support the work on historic mills. So that's one of the questions. And how can you raise awareness in the society about historic mills? Well, the moderators know the topics as well, and if you don't talk about a topic but about something totally different, it's also okay. This is the network part of the conference, and later on we will have another breakout room. So I will join Jippe downstairs now and help him with the breakout rooms, and You have about 10 minutes time, so for the breakout room. And after the breakout room, we will start the educational film, which is also a break if you want to go to the toilet. But I think the film is also very interesting, but you can also watch it on the website, as Suzanne told us. So then we see each other after the film. All right, see you in the breakout rooms.
Nogle er gode til at skifte vinduer, og nogle er gode til at lægge nyt tag på et hus. I en mølle, der er det lidt mere gammeldags, og der har du jo en kulturarv, du piller ved. Og det er jo der, møllebyggeren kommer ind i billedet, fordi han ved, hvordan teknikken skal fungere, og hvordan man skal sætte tingene i stand. Og det kræver meget specialviden, rigtig meget endda.
Vi har ikke mange møllebyggere tilbage i Danmark. Så vidt, jeg har jo været rundt og snakket med nogle af dem. Vi har en tilbage, som har et svendebrev fra gammel tid.
Jeg hedder Jørgen Nielsen og er møllebygger, og det har jeg jo så været i de sidste 50 år. Jeg er ved at blive 78, så det må det jo snart være godt. Så har jeg nok lavet det arbejde, så jeg skal lave.
Møllebygger var et selvstændigt fag, man kunne tage svendebrev i, men det var det indtil 1970. Nu er det sådan, at hvis man skal være møllebygger, så skal man først have en tømreruddannelse, og så skal man ind i et møllebyggerfirma, og så lære det specialiserede håndværk der. Hvis du uddanner dig som tømrer i dag, så bruger du moderne værktøjer. Så den viden om, hvordan man har brugt de kværne og de maskiner, som står rundt omkring i møllerne, forsvinder jo med de sidste møller, hvis ikke nogen tager sig på ligesom at lære det fra dem.
De danske traditioner er truet, og det er sådan set på en måde naturligt. Så længe at vi er så få, der kender til de små detaljer, hvad der er den danske tradition.
Der er blevet en tendens til, at man også henter møllebyggere fra for eksempel Tyskland og Holland. Men det har jo noget at gøre med, at i Danmark er vi relativt højt lønnede. Det er billigere at hente en hollandsk møllebygger heroppe, end det er at bruge de 4, vi selv har. Og de hollandske møllebyggere, der kommer, de kommer med deres tradition. Altså, vi laver tingene anderledes. En bremse i en hollandsk mølle i Danmark ser vildt forskelligt ud fra, hvordan de ser ud i Holland osv. Og når det er så svært at skaffe pengene, så er man jo tilbøjelig til at sige, så tager vi det billigste tilbud. Og dermed så mister vi altså meget nemt en del af vores egen mølletradition. Og ja, altså det er forståeligt, men det er også lidt forstemmende.
Jamen altså, det særligt danske, det er, at møllerne primært lavet i træ. Det er lige fra de bærende konstruktioner helt op til tandhjul og til de store aksler. Vingerne er lavet i træ. Det er meget dansk. I Holland der er det blevet traditionen i de sidste 200 år, at man har brugt jernvinger. Denne mølle her, der har vi kalder en løgformet hat. Det er også en fordansket version af den hollandske mølle. Og de traditioner så er jeg meget for, at vi bibeholder og sørger for, at de bliver genskabt i vores restaureringer.
Jeg har lavet nogle de nye vinger, det er til den der. Dem har jeg lavet dem begge to.
Nu skal der laves en ny igen. Om det så bliver mig eller en anden, der skal lave den, det ved jeg jo ikke, eller jeg ikke kan mere.
Meget af det arbejde, der er i møllerne, det kræver mange kræfter, og derfor så er der rigtig meget brug for nogen, der er yngre.
Jeg har haft 2-3 stykker her, og har været med i et par års tid, og så var det ikke sagen alligevel. Det var for besværligt. Fordi det var beskidt arbejde, når vi kom ud omkring og ligger og rode på møllerne, jo ikke? Det var jo ikke ligesom at sidde ved en computer. Så de havde ikke interesse i det alligevel, når det kom til stykket.
Så hvis ikke der er nogen, der vil tage ved lære af det og se efter, hvad der sker, så går det i glemmebogen. Det gør det.
Skulle jeg ikke lige fortsætte dem der? Ja. Bladene?
Jeg synes, det er spændende at arbejde med. Og man lærer noget nyt hele tiden. Man lærer det gamle håndværk, hvordan det var blevet lavet dengang. Og så meget af det, som du lærer på møllerne, det kan du så også bruge i fremtidig arbejde.
Så vi har hele tiden løbende lærlinge i firmaet, som der kan varetage de gode traditioner, når jeg en dag skal pensioneres. Hvis man finder en, der er i hjertet af håndværker, så kan man ikke komme noget mere ypperligt og producere end en mølle, hvis du spørger mig. Fordi du har alt, hvad en tømmer elsker. En masse træsamlinger, store tømmer, svært tømmer. Du har nogle tømmer, der skal kunne bevæge sig, det skal have en præcision uden lige. Og hvis man elsker håndværk, så kan man ikke andet elske møller.
Altså, jeg synes, møllearbejde er utroligt spændende, fordi det er så anderledes i forhold til så meget andet almindeligt tømmerarbejde. Som, altså, de fleste kan skifte vinduer og sådan noget, men det er ikke særlig mange, der kan skifte et højben på en mølle, som jeg synes er betydeligt mere fascinerende. Han sagde, det er jo en maskine, det er jo en tømmers version af en bil. Og jeg er blevet totalt grebet af det lige siden jeg startede. Men når jeg snakker med mange af mine kammerater fra skolen, på flere punkter, så lyder de ikke interesseret i det, hvor jeg er helt vild med det, og jeg kan finde på at sidde og se videoer omkring, hvordan man bygger det. Gips, det er jo altid det samme, og vinduer gør man altid på den samme måde. Og det er der på ingen måde nogen steder en mølle.
Vores historie er vigtig for vores identitet. Og en stor del af vores historie, det var altså livet på landet. Altså, vi var jo hovedsageligt bønder. Og en del af livet på landet, det var vores møller. I betragtning af, at Danmark jo går forrest, når det gælder vindkraft. Og hvad er det, vindkraften og de elproducerende møller, vi laver i dag, er baseret på? De er baseret på den viden, man vandt i en hollandsk vindmølle, ikke? Som har lagt grunden til hele den der vindmølleindustri, som vi med rette er stolte af i dag.
This was a very impressive film. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. The link will be on the website, but also on the website Susanne already showed us in the PowerPoint. Now I want to give the floor for Per Gliese, the board member of the Dansk Møllerforening. And Per, Jippe will share the presentation. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. And hello, dear mill friends and liebe Mühlenfreunde, if there's somebody from Germany who join, I think. And my name is Per Gliese, and I will now try the next 10 minutes to introduce you how we make and produce our famous Danish mill magazine, Møllen. But first a little bit about myself. Next slide, please. I'm now 66 years old, and I have been member of the Danish Millers Association since 1989. And I'm secretary in that organization, and I'm also part of the editorial team since 1994. And I have been board member since 2000. And then I'm not out of a mill family, so where did my interest for mills coming from? And in my childhood, from I was 3 years to 22, I was living at the watermill you see on the picture. It's called Hø Mølle, and it's laying south of Ringsted in the middle of Zealand. And the mill was not functional at that moment, but the owner was the second generation of miller there, and I think I heard some exciting stories in between. So maybe already it starts there. So and then in 1987 I was married to Margaret, and we have a short honeymoon to Holland, the Netherlands. And we don't see much mill there, but we visit Kinderdijk, and I think after that I was lost. So, and also very local here, close to my house. I'm in the board in Herluf Lille Mølle, a windmill, and I have been there since we started restoring it in 2003. And today we have a full functional windmill out there. So, and yeah, and in my garden, there's always been some model of mills. So yeah, that's also a part of my interest for mills. So I think it's from there it comes. So next slide, please. And here you see a front page of our magazine. And it started in 1884, and but this is from 1916. And from 1884 to 1930, it comes weekly, but it was only about 4 pages. And as you can see on the front, the most announcement from machinery for mills and millers who search for a new miller on his mill and so on. Not really, let's say, stories about millers and milling. And but it comes weekly. And from 1930 to 1980, it comes every second week. And from 1980, it comes, as today, it comes 6 issues a year. And that's what we still do. And we are very proud. It's the oldest mill magazine produced from until January. And this is number 3674. And I think I have been involved in 174 issues of this magazine. So I think a little bit experience. Next slide, please. And here you can see, of course, we have to change the look, the design over the years. And until 2004, we have the left one, the red one. And later there was pictures. This is a drawing of Millwright John Jensen. It was there many years, but we also have pictures on the front. But this red, a lot of people know that. And inside, it's only black and white pictures. So we talk a lot about, we like to have it in color. So in 2005, we were lucky we could get color on the front and on the back. And we have this corn as background. But so finally in 2016, we have money to it and we talk about it, and we got a new look and we got a new design inside, and we have, from that day, we have full color. And also you can see the logo is a little bit different. So let's take the next slide. And of course, we have to see how many pages can we do, because the cost for sending it out and the shipping and so on. So 5 issues a year, we do 28 pages, and we have 1 issue a year with 32 pages. And that's because of the list of the Danish Mill Day, all the mills who are joining the Danish Mill Days we present in this magazine. So, and of course, we like to have a good mix in the magazine, and we always try to do that. A lot of history with old mill and mill stories, and old millers tell their story and so on. And of course, we also like to have technical articles about everything working in a mill, and also for the mill groups we have in Denmark. It's good for them to get some ideas and how they handle things. They can read it in the magazine. And of course, personal stories, also jubilees and birthdays and so on, and at least news. What's going on the Danish mill scene, you know, restoration and everything. So that's, of course, a nice mix we have. So we try that every time. So next slide, please. And of course, making such a magazine, it's a big process. You can see on the right side from the latest issue how it looks inside, with really nice color pictures. And before when the article is done, we send them to a proofreader. So she go through it, and before it comes to the print house. And then we have to edit it, and we have maybe proofreading again, and then we've got the layout on a PDF and go through that. And sometimes we have 3 or 4 proofreadings before it go to printing and to be distributed. And we only distribute it to our members. We don't have it in, let's say, local shops and museums and so on. We had it before, but we discussed it that maybe we should do it, but that will be one of our next discussions in the board. So next slide, please. And as I think you, Susanne Javelon, told before, that it's all made by volunteers' work. And that's not quite right, because the print house, of course, is taking money for it, and they set up the magazine for us. But all other things is done by volunteers' work, and takes pictures and images. And of course, Susanne Javelon and me are writing a lot of articles, but we are very happy that we have a lot of external writers who are happy to write to us and send us articles. So that's very nice. But we are 4 people in the editorial team, and as you can see on the right side, we call it the Mill School. We have in each edition these drawings, and you can see here it's about different types of stones. And it's a lady from our editorial team, Seura Metin is her name, and she owns Lille Mølle on Fyn today. And she's very good making these drawings for us. And we hope when we have, let's say, 20 or 30 of these drawings, we will make a little booklet about it to children and mill groups and so on. So we hope we can do that. And then again, proofreading is a part of the volunteer work. And as you can see, plus 100 hours we use on every issue, I think. So yeah, a lot of work before we got the printed version. So next slide, please. And yeah, so we have economy, and it's normally Søren, the next speaker, who do that. But as you can see, we always look for more advertising, but it's difficult in these days with war and everything. So, but we have, and that is for the whole year, plus 3,600 euro. We have press and packing, 15,000 euro, and we have editing and office, 200 euro, stamps and so on, 2,800, and we have a deficit on 14,400. But as you see in Susanne's presentation, we use nearly half of our income for the magazine, because we think it's a big force that we still can presentate that for our members. So next slide, please. And so the future, yeah, what will that bring? And the printed paper or online, I take that first. That's always a discussion on our board meetings. But as far as we have the money and we have people who like to make it, we will keep the printed version of the magazine. We think we have a lot of old members, of course, and they really like to sit in the sofa and reading it. And when they have a problem in the mill, they take it from the reol and said, oh, we can see in the magazine, they write about it. So we also discuss, should we do a number of issues, 4 years, 3 years, always because of economy. And of course, we need more readers. And so I hope some of you will be members after this session, of course, I hope that. So, but always again, money, money, money. But one of our coming projects is to scan all our magazine. And that's, of course, you think a big project. And we don't have all the magazines ourselves. We are so small, we don't have any office or archive. It's laying on private persons. But we hope we can the magazines are 2 or 3 places in Denmark, and we hope we can collect them and get them scanned. So, but it's one of our big coming projects. So, and yeah, that's my drawing you see on the right. So, but next slide, please. And yeah, so a little bit about Facebook, and I think it's a good, let's say, combination and together with our magazine, because we have this Facebook site, and it's also Susanne and me who edited it, and on Facebook, everything is coming quickly, and there's coming new wings up on the mill today, and there's a lot of pictures, and you can put pictures up. You don't have a name on it, and people answer very quickly. And if you see a nice series of pictures of a mill restoration and someone, and maybe in the next time we have the mill magazine, we have an article about it. So it's a good combination, I think, and it's, you know, a lot of people use it and comment on it, and you know, a lot of bad thing is said on Facebook, but I see on our side it's normally in a nice tone. So it's, yeah, it's really good. So next page. And of course, we have a website, and you saw Susanne told about the big project with the film, Historisk Vingeshus, and the website, the new website was a part of it, and it's only, I think, a year and a half old, and there was many problems in the start and in the beginning, but it's a different story. But of course, it's always about reality and ambitions, and we have a lot of ambitions on it, news and updates, a nice web shop with our, you know, small books and booklets we sell, and also a debate forum. It's always nice to have to the mill people, they can discuss things like we do here. And but you know, it's time, reality is times and skills and so on, but it's there. And it's work. So go, you see the line there, so go on and look at it. So it's very nice. But thank you for listening to me. And of course, I hope a lot of you listeners will be member of our organization and get this amazing magazine, Merlin. So thank you for listening.
Good advertising, Per.
Yes, I hope.
Because of time, I suggest we go on with the next speaker, Søren Hansen, and then after you have done your presentation, Søren, we have some room for questions, and after that another debate round, but then we can put the questions a bit more together because we're a little bit behind on schedule. The floor is yours, Søren.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nicole. And first I want to thank you for me to be a part of this conference. It's very exciting. My name is Søren, and I will talk a little about how the historic mills in Denmark is organized, and how the mill guilds works in practice. I have my experience from a local mill in Lundby, north of Odense. Next slide. Yes, you can see the mill on the right. That's not my mill, but I had been a volunteer for more than 20 years on this mill. It was built in 1820, and it's still working, but not at the moment, because we are having new wings, and hopefully later this year they will be mounted. I'm a chairman in this guild on this mill, and it's one of the biggest guilds in Denmark. I'm also a member of the board in Dansk Møllerforening, the Danish Miller Association, where I'm responsible for the economy. I'm also responsible for the networks meeting, which I'm talking about a little later. And I'm also a contact person for the National Mill Day, and doing all the practice about the practical details around this day. In my daily work, I have absolutely nothing to do with historic mills. I'm an engineer in electrical installations. Next slide, please. Yeah, to understand the Danish mill of the ownership, we have 4 major groups of this ownership. We have a big group with private-owned mills. Yes, that's private persons or families who had owned the mill for several generations. Someone has also a guild helping them with the practical things about the mill. These mills have often a very close connection to the family, and maybe we can take it as a symbol of the family. Normally, it's very close for them. Then we have a second group. That's mills with another ownership. That could be mill groups or a group of local people who own the mill, and the mill is also a symbol for the local community often. Then we have the mills owned by a community. That's often a municipality owned mills. They are often driven by a guild, and then there's a contract between the mill guild and the community, and it says about responsible for the restoration, the maintenance, and the economy, and maybe the daily operation. There's a big variation of these contracts. Then we have the mills that are owned by museums. Mills is sadly often just a building that shows the visitor how the mills looks like. And also some mills, they have a mill guild connected to the mill to guide visitors and make it work if it's possible. Then we have the next slide. Yes. Now we have to understand our work in the Danish Miller Association. I've just listed the windmills and the water mills. There's 160 windmills and 140 windmills, and they are far from working, I will say. That's the number of mills that we find interested in our association. That's what we are trying to working for. There's some of them that they are protected by the state, and there's only few of these mills is working. I will say around 30 windmills, and as Ellen told earlier, about 10 water mills is working. But the interesting part of this is the mill guilds. There's about 85 mill guilds, and these 85 mill guilds, they take care of a lot of the Danish mills today. Next slide, please. And how do they organize these mill guilds? It's very different. They have a very different size, these mill guilds. Some are only consisting of few persons, and they just take care of the mill building as good as they can. Other mill guilds is up to 100 persons, and they have a big activities on the mills. And some of the guilds have this kind of group organization. And they take care of, some take care of the finances, some take care of the practical things around the mills, and maybe other buildings around the mill. That's also the main task for the guilds. That is, of course, the economy, and that's also knowledge about. I will talk about that later. Also, the knowledge for mills. That's a big task for the guilds. But otherwise, it's handling the maintenance of the mills. That's one of the biggest tasks for the guilds, of course. Then we have the next slide, please. Yes, we have the amount of the work. There's a lot of things to do on the mill. Everybody knows about that. They need a lot of maintenance, and it has to be done in an appropriate way. It means a lot of working hours, a number of tasks, and a lot of tasks, and it's much bigger than they can solve. And the need for volunteers is huge. We all know it's difficult to have young people. So there's elder people, and they are fighting for volunteers, and they don't know how to recruit, and that's a huge challenge for them. And then they have the search for knowledge and maintaining the mill. search for materials and search for how to handle and control the different machines in the mill, how to handle the security. Security is also very important. And both for the mill and for the millers and for the volunteers. It's very important. Then we have the search for the economy, of course. It's an ongoing process. We have a lot of funds in Denmark, and they are very generous to the historic mill, we think. But it's a very important thing, and if you have a restoration project, it needs to be very detailed in the description, because and it's need a high grade of commitment to give a positive result, and that's a big challenge for the guilds. Next slide, please. Yes, what can we do for these mill guilds? Convey knowledge. We need to help these people to find behind the mills to find knowledge about how to do things. We need to find the right teachers in mill experience to arrange courses. We have arranged some courses for the millers, and we hope that in the future we can have many more of these courses. But the challenge for us as a millers association, we need to find the right teachers, and it's difficult. Then we have our magazine, Møllen, as Per told us around. It's very important for us and convey knowledge about mill technology. And then we have the regional networks meeting, which I'm responsible for. It's a networks meeting for all the persons behind the mills. We have 7 regions in Denmark, and they have one or several meetings a year. Every meeting has an agenda and have one or two special subjects to discuss. And then we also have the National Mill Day. It's the 3rd Sunday in June. And for many mill guilds, that's the most important day of the year. A lot of activities is arranged on the mills, and it gives a lot of and it gives the mills possibility to earn some money, and give them also the possibility to find some new volunteers. It's very important, and it's in the effort to keep in contact with the local community. It's also very, very important. Next, yes. We have the regional networks meeting. It's very important for the guilds with this in terms to convey knowledge. We have started this meeting up in 2012, and it was an overwhelming success, I would say. The participants was very positive of these meetings, and they really have a benefit of these meetings. And that was because they were talking to other guilds with the same problems as they have themselves. We have today 8 to 10 meetings a year. And Dansk Møllerforening, the Danish Miller Association, is represented in every meeting. And they are often arranged by local guilds, and some of them are arranged of the Danish Miller Association. We have had a lot of subjects discussed on these meetings about, of course, the knowledge has been changed between the participants. They get new ideas how to organize. They get new ideas to new activities and ideas to how to promote the mill, the work with the mills. And one of the biggest challenges to find new volunteers is thus discussed on nearly every meeting. And we haven't found the solution at the moment, but there's a lot of things to do. They have to talk with the local people, the local community to find them. We try, and it's a very hard work. And we have a theme on every meeting, and that could be have some examples of that's painting, how to paint, and wood types, what they can be used for. And then, of course, we have the security for visitors and for the millers, and about fundraising and IT and social media. That's some of the things we have discussed. Another benefit of these meetings is socializing. So have a nice time with people of the same kind, to know that you're not alone about this work with historic mills. That's very, very important, you can see. And yes, we are doing these meetings again, and we will try to have more meetings and more courses. That's what we are working for the mill guilds. Yeah, I hope you have had an insight of the Danish mill, and I hope you have a lot of questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Søren. Yes, indeed. The floor is open for some questions for all the speakers, I should say, but especially, of course, for the last ones. Please raise your hand or open your microphone if you have a question. I cannot see. Not everybody has his camera on, so I cannot see if there are there any questions. Let me see. I don't think there are any questions for you, Søren or Per.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, I see there from Rolf. Sorry, Rolf. Yes, please, Rolf, open your microphone. Yeah, you're still on mute, Rolf. You have to
no,
unmute.
that's better.
That's better.
You are right. Yes, forgot. Sorry. I saw a picture of your mill. I think Lumby Miller or something like that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Was that a Lacour sales system, or did I see? Yes.
Yes, that's a Lacour.
We don't know that. We don't know this sort of sales in out of Denmark, I think. So
okay.
It was very, very interesting to see it.
It's very easy to handle, I can tell you.
Yeah. Okay, so it's, that was the question. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I think I saw a hand from Raphael. Am I correct, or was it just a wave? Yeah, Raphael Roberts, do you want to say something or not?
Well, then.
Yeah, please ask your question, Raphael.
Raphael.
Yeah.
Ik had niet gevraagd. Ik was alleen aan film.
Yes. Sorry, what is your question?
No, I don't want to do the question, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Excuse.
Thanks.
Okay. Yes, I see Hans again and Rolf again, but
but someone else.
Yeah, Henrik. He didn't answer. He didn't get a chance to ask a question. He can do it first. Yes. Sorry, Hans.
No worries. I mean, it's interesting to hear this, because I think that this is very common, the challenges that you've mentioned today, that we all have, or are facing these challenges in various ways and various situations, but they are kind of general in itself. What we have managed to do here in Strängnäs in Sweden is that we've actually managed to get a bunch of youth interested in milling and preserving the mill and so on. mainly we started with hiring them as guides in the summer, and had them showing the mill and showing it for visitors and such. By them having done that during a summer, they got hooked. So that might be a trick to bribe them by hiring them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a very good tip, and maybe a bridge for the debate in the breakout rooms, because we wanted to talk with you about how to get volunteers, how to get younger people interested in historic mills, and maybe also how to raise money. I suggest that Jippe will put you in the breakout rooms again, and you learn now that you have to push a button. If you're not able to join, also okay. Then if there's some breakout room with not so many people, we will put you in some other one. Then we just overrule you. Okay. Jippe, please go ahead, and then I'll see you in 10-15 minutes again here in the general room. I hope you had an interesting debate in the breakout room, and I was wondering if there are any left questions or remarks before I come to the ending of some other information. Are there any remarks or questions or ideas which came up in the breakout room? Wouter, please, yes.
Hi everybody. Now, not from the breakout room, but just in general, I want to give my compliments to the Danish Mill organization for this nice and interesting conference, and also incredible how much work they do with such a small group of volunteers. Really, that's what I want to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really a compliment, definitely. Yes, thank you. Any other questions? There was somebody who asked me in the beginning if you could get the floor to get some other news in this group. Let me see. Who was that? Let me see. Oh, quite some stories are there in the chat. Well, I'm not sure anymore. Okay, well, if there are no any other questions or remarks, I would like to ask Wouter or John if they could say something about the next conference we are organizing. Which one of you I can give the floor? John is unmuting. John.
I can come in there, Nicole. So hello everyone, and I'm going to first of all echo what Wouter has just said. I think a fantastic conference, and congratulations to our Danish colleagues for everything and the time that you've put in to make such great presentations and to share with such passion the work that you're doing to protect and promote your milling heritage. So our next conference is coming up in June, and we are going to be exploring together the ways in which we can both protect, catalogue, and indeed display and promote the history that goes around the mill, the artifacts, the things that the miller worked with and used. So that is, if you like, intangible heritage around the work that both the miller in all the different elements of our craft, so whether it's oil milling, whether it's paper, whether it's flour milling, and we're going to be looking at different examples from different countries, from the Netherlands, from Belgium, we hope from France, from the UK and other countries, to explore good practice in terms of how we ensure that we do not lose really important documents, mill bills, the actual both the physical things that work around the work that we do, how we don't lose them, how we protect them, but equally how we celebrate them and help others understand their use and how all of this builds this picture of our heritage. So that's coming up in June, and we very much look forward to seeing you, and an opportunity to share your ideas and your experiences along with the if you like, the case studies, the examples that we will have presentations around. Wouter, anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you. Great. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, John. And thank everybody again. I will close this conference now so we can go on with our business because we're a bit of time. And I will send everybody a small survey to learn more from you, how you were feeling about this conference, and the other ideas you might have. So thank you very much. And I hope to see you in June or maybe earlier. You never know. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.